In this edition of Southern Newsweek, toys and food are collected to be given to needy families for Christmas. Preparations are made in Southland in response to the threat of a major earthquake, and tourists queue on the peak of Mount Roy. Welcome to Southern Newsweek, I'm Melissa Barton. Families in Dunedin facing the prospect of a lean Christmas will this year receive kids' toys and food thanks to a bus collection. Last year, 3,500 items were donated by school children and businesses. Roxburgh has more.
Ritchie's Bus Company and Presbyterian Support organised today's collection of toys and food from Dunedin schools and businesses. The project brought together schools, bus drivers and volunteers like this mother and daughter team.
And there's a lot of need out there, and some of us are more blessed than others.
Everyone's got in amongst the giving. It's cool.
People's response has been absolutely superb.
Merry Christmas!
The buses filled up fast, the result of hours of work by volunteers who say it's all worth it to know children will be happy this Christmas. The goods were donated by schools around the region, including St Clair, Māori Hill and Wakari. These children had a pretty good idea what they wanted for Christmas.
A bike, a tablet. I probably want probably technology.
But Presbyterian Support's Warren Rosser says initiatives like the drive are about teaching kids the joy of giving.
All about society and about some of the challenges that are out there, and also about the importance of generosity and about giving back to the community.
The event will continue again next year with toys and food provided to more than 200 families. Roxburgh Lebone, The South Today.
After 4 years of planning and 5 months of construction, Tuhura Otago Community Trust's Science Centre is nearing completion, with doors set to be open to the public mid-December. The $2.5 million redevelopment of Otago Museum's former Discovery World tropical forest has been helped by $500,000 in funding from the Otago Community Trust.
These sticky guests are joining the new attractions at Tuhura at the Otago Museum. These Goliath stick insects grow up to 25 centimetres long and can lay up to 1,000 eggs a year. They are the living embodiment of the "sisters are doing it for themselves" mantra, as they do not need a male to reproduce.
In the absence of a male Goliath stick insect, they can still reproduce, and so they produce clones of themselves. So females like this will just produce up to 1,000 smaller female stick insects in their lifetimes, which is pretty amazing.
Science communicator Eden Gray says that these critters have travelled from the North Island. However, they are from further afield.
So ours specifically have come down from Wellington Zoo, but stick insects, Goliath stick insects like this are native to Australia, so the northern parts. So they like it really hot and pretty humid too, just like our tropical forests.
Visitors will be able to get up close and personal with these gentle giants on weekends and through the school holidays. And she says having them on you doesn't hurt a bit.
So they're going to be based in their enclosure, but we're going to be getting them out for visitor interactions and hopefully developing a new talk around them so that people can learn a little bit more about them, as well as enjoying seeing them as well.
And do they hurt you?
A little bit tickly, but they're pretty friendly girls.
As well as these stick insects, the refurbished tropical forest butterfly environment will not only house over 1,000 exotic butterflies, but also a variety of other species, including tarantula, terrapins and birds. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Emergency Management Southland has secured a further $170,000 in funding to help prepare a plan for when the South Island's Alpine Fault causes a major earthquake. The funding for Project Alpine Fault Magnitude 8 was announced by Civil Defence Minister Chris Farfoy as part of the 2018 Resilience Fund. Sharon Rees has more.
Emergency Management Southland Manager Angus Mackay is spreading awareness of the potential damage that could be caused by a rupture in the Alpine Fault. A plan called Project AF8, managed by Emergency Management Southland, started in 2016 with a focus on spreading awareness, and Mackay says its timing is no coincidence.
GNS science have gone back about 8,000 years, and they can see with pretty good certainty every time the Alpine Fault is ruptured. And it goes about every 300 years. So the last time it happened was in 1717, which is 300 years ago. So we know it's going to happen in the lifetime of people alive today.
He says the rupture could produce devastating effects similar to the earthquakes in Canterbury and more recently in Kaikoura. According to simulations run by scientists, the rupture could produce sideways movement of around 8 to 10 metres and an uplift of about 2 metres.
From Milford Sound for about 400 kilometres up the South Island, we'll get that movement across and up. So if you imagine a road's going across that, or a pipeline or a power line, they're all going to break. So we're going to have some really big infrastructure damage all the way down the South Island.
He says Invercargill may be one of the least affected cities in the South Island, adding to the reasons Emergency Management Southland is the one implementing the plan.
Down in Invercargill and Gore might actually get away quite lightly compared to other parts of the country. So it's a good idea that we're there coordinating some of this work, because when the actual event happens, we might be using our facilities down here to actually coordinate a lot of the response in the South Island.
The funding secured this week is the third successful application of funding for the project since its inception and will go towards hiring someone to work full-time on the project. McKay says while there's no precise figure for the funding needed, negotiations are underway to secure long-term funding for the project. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Last weekend's mobile phone test of a new national emergency alert system shows it still has some bugs to be ironed out. It was estimated only 30% of cell phones would receive the message. The South Today took to the streets of Dunedin to find out more.
Cell phones. Most of us have one, but in the event of emergency, would you receive an alert message? The new $18 million Emergency Management Otago Alert System was brought forward after public confusion during the Kaikoura earthquake last year. The emergency system was tested this weekend for the first time in Dunedin and the wider Otago region. It was estimated about 30% of people would be able to receive the alert, a written message accompanied by a loud noise, but some older cell phones would not be capable of receiving it. Many of the people we asked today said they had not received the alert.
I saw it on Facebook that it was being sent out, but I didn't receive anything.
No, I didn't actually, no.
No, I didn't.
I was hoping that I would get one, but I didn't.
I'm sorry, I didn't receive my one.
However, the warning won't come through unless you specify on your smartphone notifications to accept emergency alerts.
We were just talking about that this morning and we realised that's probably what we had to do.
For at least one person, they didn't receive the warning even though the phone was set to do so.
Yeah, it's on, so...
It is on?
Yeah. I never touched it. It must have just already been like that. I just got this phone yesterday, but I didn't receive any on my old phone either.
And of course, not all phones can receive the message anyway.
Well, I've got a very old telephone. I don't have... because I have trouble with my eyes, I don't have a computer, so I didn't expect to get any message.
As people buy new phones and update older models, it is hoped about 80% of cell phone users will eventually receive emergency alerts. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
The top of a mountain might seem an unusual place for a cutiform, but that is the case on Wanaka's Mount Roy. After a 3-hour climb, tourists are waiting for up to half an hour at the peak for the chance to pose for that one special photo. Mark Price reports.
It's an image that has become symbolic of Wanaka, Roy's Peak, a place for tourists to get away from it all. Except every day 150 tourists are attempting to get away from it all in exactly the same spot. And that means forming an orderly queue and waiting for that photo opportunity.
We had to wait for like half an hour to really get it. Like all people were standing in a queue until the next came, and yeah, everyone could take the pictures they want.
Yeah, quite a few people. It's pretty hectic, but it's absolutely stunning.
Lake Wanaka tourism boss James Helmore does not see the numbers on Mount Roy as an issue and points out Mount Sinai in Egypt handles 10 times as many tourists as Roy's Peak.
In the case of Mount Sinai, there's 1,500 people a day walking up there, and you compare that to Mount Roy at 150, and the only difference really is that Mount Sinai is invested in the level of infrastructure required to cater for 1,500 people. You know, think parking, toilets, track surface, interpretive signage, all that sort of stuff. And that's what we've got to do not only for Mount Roy, but for the Wanaka or Upper Clutha region as a whole.
The track opened for the summer season 2 weeks ago, with the car park double the size of last year. The best advice from tourists coming back from the peak seemed to be make an early start to beat the heat and cut the queue. Mark Price for the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a petition in favour of having a Ronald McDonald house at Dunedin Hospital is presented to the Southern District Health Board, and homemade trolleys race down Timaru's main street. Welcome back. A petition with 12,000 names supporting the establishment of a Ronald McDonald house at Dunedin Hospital was presented to the Southern District Health Board recently. The petition was organised by Dunedin woman Jackie Hallier after the idea for the house ran into opposition.
A 568-page petition was presented to the Southern District Health Board at its public meeting forum at Waikari Hospital this morning. It was organised by Jackie Hallier, who obtained 12,377 signatures challenging the board's rethink on including a Ronald McDonald house in the new Dunedin Hospital.
12,377 public asking you to reconsider. Get over this idea that Ronald McDonald House is bad for our health and acknowledge the huge support that this facility can offer Dunedin.
Hallier told board members of her experiences of the Auckland and Christchurch Ronald McDonald houses and addressed criticism from Public Health Association Chief Executive Warren Lindbergh, who opposed one for Dunedin.
In Ronald McDonald House, there is not even a Ronald McDonald toy. In fact, I don't even think I remember seeing that stupid clown there. There's just clean rooms, lovely people, beautiful facilities.
The matter has caused much discussion between medical professionals. Hallier says no lack of advertising or branding will change attitudes of parents who think fast food is a suitable daily diet for their children.
Those parents that believe that fast foods is important in a daily diet for their children aren't going to be brainwashed by marketing. They've already decided that.
Board Chief Executive Chris Fleming said in a statement today he welcomed input about the hospital rebuild or changes to infrastructure, patient care, resourcing or expenditure. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
An Invercargill woman is asking Southlanders to send some love to the elderly this Christmas as part of a nationwide movement of kindness. Sending Love, a program to deliver Christmas cards to the elderly, started as one North Island woman's act of kindness and now has made it all the way to Invercargill. Sharon Rees has more.
Andy Gentle and her helpers, Della and Ashby, are writing and collecting Christmas cards to send to rest homes all over Southland. The Sending Love program started with one act done by Hannah Rogers of Auckland, and through social media, the idea has spread through the nation.
She just came up with the idea to send a card, a single card, to one resident in a rest home. And then she must have posted it on her Facebook page and it just completely spiraled from there. And now she's got boxes popping up all over the country.
When Gentle realised there were no collection boxes in Southland, she took it upon herself to bring the idea to Invercargill.
I saw some friends sort of tagged in it or whatever. And I thought, hang on a minute, there's none in Southland yet. The closest one was Dunedin. We need to do something about that. So I got my Christmas paper out, wrapped up a couple of boxes, headed into town and easily got a place to put it right in the middle of town in the library, which was great.
She said she read that in some cases up to 50% of rest home residents don't have visitors at Christmas time and knew such a simple act could make a big difference.
It's just really sad, and knowing that by simply writing a card you can fully make someone's day and at Christmas time probably make their year. It just seems like a no-brainer, like why wouldn't we get involved?
Since posting about her collection box, others have followed suit, and now they're beginning to pop up around Invercargill, Winton and Gore. People are being asked to fill out or make their own Christmas cards and deliver them to the collection boxes unsealed before December 6, when they'll be delivered around the region. Collection box sites can be found at the website sendinglove.co.nz. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Recently, a Soapbox Derby was held on Timaru's main street. The South Today checked out the trolleys as they sped down the hill.
Last Sunday had all manner of gravity-powered vehicles racing down Timaru's Stafford Street. The obstacles and jumps made for lots of action, with the inventive contraptions encountering some serious spills on the way down. Most of the drivers were young adults and happy to shrug off a bit of road rash or a bruised knee as they came to an inglorious halt down the hill. The event was designed as a fundraiser in conjunction with Movember. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Dunedin held a white ribbon event in the Octagon last weekend, where bands played and people of all ages openly discussed a topic which has been hushed up in the past. The South Today was there.
Dunedin's Octagon was filled with music and colour on Saturday as the city commemorated White Ribbon Day. Dunedin South MP Claire Curran was among the speakers and took aim at a former Auckland-based broadcaster.
Like many men in New Zealand had a problem. That's what's needed, Tony. A full and frank confession and evidence you are truly sorry for what you did to Kristen and her family.
Coordinator of the Dunedin Collaboration Against Family Violence, Cinnamon Borum, is pleased with how the day went and says one of their main aims is to encourage everyday people to help others.
Today's really about raising awareness and seeing if we can also attract some champions, because champions are local people really. We need ordinary people, aunties, uncles, mothers, fathers that are willing to say no to family violence and find ways to help.
Her thoughts are shared by Craig Dennison of Dunedin Police.
Being reported more, it's being spoken about in the social circles far easier than what it used to be. There was a huge stigma attached to family violence, but now we're more and more comfortable talking about it, and it's getting more exposed to common society really.
Organisers say the afternoon and early evening event went very smoothly, and they're pleased to be continuing the conversations around how best to tackle the issues of family violence. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Coming up after the break, Roxburgh starts cleaning up after last weekend's flood, and a smelly flower gets ready to stink. Thanks for staying with us. Roxburgh continues cleaning up after heavy rains flooded much of the area on Sunday afternoon. The South Today spoke to residents as they rolled up their sleeves and got to work.
With dark storm clouds threatening more thunderstorms, many Roxburgh residents were cleaning up their garages and gardens of unwanted silt from Sunday's flash flood.
My garden's a mess, and I'm lucky my house, other people's houses are worse off than mine, but
just having a bit of a clean up around the house and had the insurance people in, Jay's cleaning, but no, everything seems to be alright at the moment, but now we've got this rain coming in again, so no, it's not like the other night.
Luckily, the forecast threat of more rain did not amount to much, and many locals were philosophical about the mud and mess they were having to clean up.
A bit of a shock, but you just keep on going and you do it.
Central Otago Mayor Tim Cadigan said they hope to restore water to the town today and were advising people to turn their water off at the mains until the system was flushed clean.
We're going to be sending messages out to the community and assisting the community to turn their tobies off in Roxburgh itself. The reason for that is that when the pressure comes back in on the system, that water is going to be inevitably dirty water. We don't want that going into people's washing machines, dishwashers and so forth. So tobies off if you've got a chance to do that, and we'll also be messaging that to people and assisting those who can't.
Cadigan said that clearing the road north out of Roxburgh was proving harder than first thought, but road detours were in place for those heading north. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Environment Southland is giving Southland school pupils a lesson in boat safety this month. Maritime staff are visiting schools, placing particular emphasis on the need to wear a well-fitted life jacket. Sharon Rees has more.
From the new entry pupils right through to the Year 6s, these Sacred Heart School pupils were given a lesson in boat safety from the man who knows it best. Environment Southland Deputy Harbour Master Ian Cord says it's important to get the message through to children as early as possible.
We start really young because it's like my grandkids, when I get into a car, if I haven't got my seatbelt on, they give me grief. So it's the same, we start with the younger the better, and it's drummed into them that whenever they're on the water, they have to wear a properly fitting life jacket. I show them an ill-fitting life jacket, a properly fitting life jacket, and then I show them how an inflatable life jacket works.
Cord began with some questions to gauge the level of experience the children have had with boats before fitting them with a life jacket. And for some, it was their first time.
I normally ask them when I start, like, who's had a life jacket on before, and it's quite surprising who hasn't and who has. A lot of the country schools, Dad's got a boat, so 90% of them have all had life jackets at some stage. But yeah, you come into town, some parents haven't got a life jacket, so it's all a new experience to them.
Once the children and their teachers had been fitted with a life jacket, they were given a chance to test out their boat safety lessons in Environment Southland's boat, the Tauroa. The program will be taught to every classroom from 12 different schools in the hope that safe boating practices will continue into the next generation of Southlanders. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Invercargill's iconic tuataras will be moving to a building of their own because they are a risk to the Southland Museum and Art Gallery's collection. The environment in which the tuataras live produces the type of insects no museum would welcome. Sharon Rees has more.
These little guys help make the Southland Museum and Art Gallery a unique experience for visitors. But the soil, heat and moisture which comes with the territory provides a breeding ground for insects such as silverfish and book lice, posing a risk to the museum's collection.
For the museum, best practices conservation of collections is to eliminate risks. And here we are with this whole insect breeding colony on the north of our building, so we've been aware of this. We're very vigilant in our housekeeping and keeping tabs on things. But for long term, sort of, if we're going to plan anything, this is the time to separate the tuatara from the museum collections.
He says the tuataras were once housed in a separate building, but weather conditions meant they had to be moved to their current location and that a lot of planning would be needed for the new tuatarium.
There's so many little sort of things we need to look at to make sure we get the decision right this time, and it's got to last, it's going to be here for a long time, so we've got to make the right decision, so I don't believe rushing into it is an option.
Hazley, who has worked with the tuataras for the past 45 years, says having the tuataras is essential to the Southland Museum and Art Gallery and that the new tuatarium would remain on site.
This museum's point of difference is the tuatara program. We've got other great exciting exhibitions, but the locals, the revisitation that happens here of the kids, their provincial pets, we're bored, let's go see the tuatara. It's gold for this museum is having the tuatara program here, but I'm biased, of course.
Hazley designed the current tuatarium and said he'll design the new one with the glass removed, giving the public greater access to the reptiles. The Living Dinosaurs project is listed in the Council's long-term plan as beginning in 2020. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Here's something for plant lovers to look forward to this summer. For perhaps only the second time in New Zealand history, a corpse flower looks set to flower and stink right here in Dunedin.
She's heavy, right?
It's been a long gestation period and an anxious wait for Winter Garden glasshouse curator and plant man Stephen Bishop. He's hoping his baby, this 33 kg corpse plant, will produce a rare flower this summer.
It is the world's largest flowering structure on it, so it's quite exciting to actually have one. And when I got it about 9 years ago, it came in a small pot and was about the size of a golf ball.
The corpse plant is so named because its flower smells like rotting flesh. The corm, or plant's bulb-like underground stem, was weighed today and showed the chances of the plant producing a flower are high.
And it's doubled in weight over the last 2 years, so it's gone from 15.5 kgs to 32 kgs for us, and we've measured it as well, and now we're just going to pop it into a bigger pot.
The proper name is Amorphophallus titanum, also known as the Titan Arum, and this is what its huge flower will look like. If it blooms, it is expected to be a tourist attraction for the gardens. There will even be a live stream.
We will leave it for a month or so until the shoot starts poking out of the soil, and then we'll put it on display down in our glasshouse. So we're just going to have to wait another couple of months, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully it's going to be a flower bud for us this time.
While we are told the smell is extremely antisocial, the flowering lasts only 24 to 36 hours, something seen in New Zealand only once previously. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
That's all from us this week. You can go online and check us out on Facebook and Twitter, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, and thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.